99.3 KNSI. Time for taking you home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. Heidi Voigt is in studio with us, but before we get there, folks, remember, Thursday morning, 7:23, Saturday afternoon, 12:53, and also remember to start that home search at VoigtJohnson.com. Heidi, good morning.
Good morning.
We have to talk about inventory because for the longest time, inventory has just been super tight.
For sure.
But are things starting to loosen up just a tad?
They are. I mean, nationally, the statistics are showing that we are still in an inventory shortage, and I would think that that is absolutely true, especially when we're considering affordable inventory.
Right.
But what we're seeing locally would be that the inventory levels are increasing in certain price points.
Okay, when you say affordable inventory, what price point are we talking about here?
I'm talking about first-time home buyers jumping in and in the last couple of years, an affordable inventory was possibly something that what I would say $250,000 and under. But
right.
Now you're even looking at young people jumping in and buying a house for $180,000, and their payment is almost $1,400-$1,500.
Right.
That's not. For some people, that's not affordable.
Right, I understand, for sure. But you're starting out, my gosh.
Yeah. So, and of course, if you can stretch yourself and make those things work, but there's just not that inventory level that is 200 and under. That is something that is without a lot of repair or
exactly right.
or location that people want to be.
In the old days, it was you buy that house,
Yep.
the ickiest house in the nicest neighborhood.
Yeah.
You fix it and you sell it and you make your profit. Does that still work?
I think in theory it works. I do think that we do have a generation of people that have come up that have some of those skills, but a lot of them have been molded by parents like me saying, go get, a college education and stuff, and we didn't teach these kids to maybe work with their hands as much and do those types of things. So if they've got skills within their family, that's a great option.
Absolutely.
Some people just don't have those skills.
Yeah, but it was sweat equity,
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm talking about. Because when you have to hire somebody to do that, that equity goes right out the door.
It goes right out the door. So you got to have that uncle, that dad, that that brother that knows how to do those things. And I do think in central Minnesota we have a lot of people that are still extremely talented in that perspective, but maybe not as much as maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Find yourself a farm boy or a farm girl.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So inventory these days, a shortage sort of kind of yes still?
Yes. Well, and when I think about inventory levels, I always think about competition.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so, when we see inventory levels a little bit tighter, that's where you're going to see still competing offers. Mm-hmm. And when we see inventory levels at different price points where those homes have been on the market for 30, 40, 50 days, sometimes, a couple months. Mm-hmm. That tells me there's a pocket of inventory that does not have as many buyers as it does actual sellers.
I would think that would make some people that would be the first thing they would look at, right? Maybe not if they're coming off of a $500,000 or a $750,000 property, but if you are put the numbers together, right? If you're paying rent right now, my gosh, you can make that same payment and start building equity.
You certainly can, and that's where we're still seeing a lot of success for people. One thing that we've always enjoyed about the fall market is that there are less people in the marketplace. There are still those people sitting on the fence waiting for those interest rates to adjust. And if you're really forward thinking and saying, okay, well, I'm going to buy now. Yeah. I'm not competing with as many people. I'm going to be selective. I might be able to negotiate a little bit. And you lock in, you're buying that home. Well, things drop a point in the next year, you can refinance, and then now you're not competing with
everybody else in the marketplace. Well, let's talk about that refinancing thing, because there is kind of a rule of thumb, right? You want to be able to pay that money back that it's going to cost you to refi. There's a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I think it's a year is what they recommend. Yeah.
And also, you want to be able to plan on staying in that home for 5 years, I would think.
Yeah, well, we've seen it all over the board, though.
I bet.
It just depends on how volatile things are. But I think the relative note with refinancing and buying at a higher rate is that what have you just bought at what rate, And when those rates go down, how does the price increase? You know, so
Yeah.
if you're buying something at 225 and the rates drop down, are those same sellers with a parallel box or
Yeah.
a parallel house,
Right.
are they now able to sell at 250? You know, so even though you're paying a little more interest, you've built yourself $25,000 equity. And if you're only going to stay there for a year after that, leave
Sure.
yours there because you've got the equity that you were seeking.
You know, it always seems like we try to focus on helping out buyers, right?
Yeah.
But what about sellers? What can sellers do?
Well, I think that that's probably the biggest
The thing
notation
right
in
there.
all of this, because when we're looking at whether it be competitive or non-competitive inventory bracket, but really if you're in an inventory bracket where you have competition, sellers need to be strategic at that point and making sure that they shine. So, you know, kind of the pretense of not doing much to your house because somebody was just going to come buy it because somebody needed
Anyway,
it.
yeah.
That's kind of gone away. So fixing things, polishing things up, working on your landscape, painting rooms that need to be painted.
New garage door.
Yeah, all those things. If it's broken, fix it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look good, clean it up. You know, that whole presentation and maintenance record becomes extremely prevalent
Yeah.
to people in those areas.
You know, it's almost like we're getting back to where we used to be.
Yeah.
Except that values keep going up, prices keep going up, don't they?
Yeah, well, we see that. I would say, you know, from a micro perspective, I don't see prices going up in a lot of the areas that are, say, 400,000 and up. I think
Yeah.
that is kind of flattened out. We do still see competition in some of those price points if they have unique features like acreage or outbuildings
Yeah.
or lakeshore.
Yeah.
But your standard homes that are in developments that have lots of neighbors and lots of options, I feel like that pricing has flattened out for the time being.
Taking you home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate here on KNSI. Thursday morning at 7:23, Saturday afternoon at 12:53. Start that home search at VoigtJohnson.com. And Heidi, how do we do that?
Just reach out to us at 320-774-2400, or we have a great gallery of agents at VoigtJohnson.com.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI.
Just